Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining me today for Stay Free with Russell Brand. It's a brand new week and it's going to be a fantastic week for all of us. We got a brilliant show coming up on Thursday where you'll see me preaching. There's no other way of putting it. Has this show gotten too preachy? How about some actual, literal preaching? Also, I'll be talking to my friends Neil Oliver and Lara Logan for our new group show. I don't want to say group show, really, not with all of the gang stuff that's going on in the UK. It sounds so disgusting, but nevertheless, you'll love it. Me, Neil, and Lara. It's a group show. We're going to groom. I might be British, but I don't get involved in that stuff, let me tell you. But today's show is going to be fantastic. It's Michael Shellenberger. If you don't know who Michael Shellenberger is, Michael came to prominence during the Twitter files. He was one of the journalists that when Elon Musk acquired Twitter, now X, he let in and he revealed the depths to which the FBI and CIA had infiltrated those organizations and were curating and controlling the information that we get, priming us, debunking, rebunking, bunking, cunking. It was all going on. Here's an official bio of Michael Shellenberger. He's an American author, journalist, and environmental policy writer known for his critiques of mainstream environmentalism and advocacy for alternative approaches to addressing environmental challenges. But he talks about a lot more than that. I guess he's pushed that to the forefront because he's going to talk about those fires a lot. In recent years, Shellenberger has continued to engage in public discourse on various topics, including renewable energy, free speech, censorship. He's the first endowed professor, sounds filthy, of University of Austin, serving as CBR Chair of Politics, Censorship and Free Speech. He also founded Public, a Substack publication that I use a lot and that you should use too. It's a brilliant conversation. We talk about cancellation, my cancellation, personally in particular, how that pertains and relates to extraordinary stories in the UK like grooming gangs. Of course, we discuss the California fires, the unique cultural position of Elon Musk, and the requirement for radical spiritual change, and the importance of nationalism and decoupling nationalism from racism. It's a brilliant conversation. You'll absolutely love it. If you're not a Rumble Premium subscriber yet, become a Rumble Premium subscriber now, and you will get to watch additional content from me, Bongino, Crowder, so many others, Glenn Greenwald, and you will get an ad-free experience here. If you're watching us on Locals, don't worry, your local subscription gives you access to all of my content, including Break Bread. Did you see this moment with Dallas?
I used to chase this kind of thing all the time. I mean, 10 years ago, the notion of having a show that had reached this level of success would have been the dream. And the meetings that I'm having with people in Hollywood and I would have killed to meet with the people who were working for the people that I'm meeting with. And God took all that away from me. I mean, you've had this recent conversion towards Christ, and I think you would probably agree that the thing that preceded it was a brokenness.
And this week's Break Bread will be fantastic as well because I'm talking to Nathan Finocchio. I've got to stop saying Pinocchio. I've got to stop saying that, haven't I? Nathan Finocchio. There he is. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, well, without any further hullabaloo or ridiculousness in this crazy, beautiful world that we all inhabit together, let's introduce Michael Shellenberger. We'll be streaming on X and YouTube initially, but eventually we'll be solely available over there on Rumble, which has always championed free speech, and will be up on Local. So please continue to watch us on X or Rumble or YouTube, that filthy place, wherever you're watching us, but ultimately we will be available just on, this bloody drink, exclusively on Rumble. Michael Shellenberger, thank you so much for joining us. It's always such a pleasure to see you.
Great to see you, Russell.
Should we run through a few potential backgrounds before we get into the content, or should we just start talking about a whole host of pretty significant and important topics?
Once again, nothing's really going on in the world, right? It's very boring.
Oh, man. I was reading the book of Revelation and the book of Genesis. Yeah, I'm doing a kind of top and tail thing with the Bible. And in Genesis, it's talking about Sodom and the kind of what sound like rape gangs targeting angels inside Lot's house. And in Revelation, it's just obviously sort of fires and celestial activity. Just this simply sounds like antiquated language describing my X feed. There's drones in the sky, there's rape gangs across the UK, there's fires across California. Do you think that the ability to communicate more instantaneously actually is creating the sense that there's a greater density of events? Or do you think that we're entering into some extraordinary end time?
I mean, just those two events are huge news. I mean, we didn't know about in the United States. I know it was covered a little bit like 10 years ago, but we really didn't know about the grooming gangs until Elon Musk decided that it needed to be on the agenda. And obviously, it's one of the worst sexual abuse and assault scandals ever, and certainly the worst since the Catholic scandals of the last couple of decades. And then the fires in Los Angeles are completely unprecedented. The problem is actually much worse than people realize. We are looking at estimates of up to $250 billion, 12,000 homes and buildings destroyed, at least 24 people dead. And Russell, you know, because you read Public, but the evidence is now overwhelming that it was the budget cuts that led directly to the delayed response and to the lack of prevention that caused the Los Angeles fires. And my friend Rich McHugh from News Nation just published this devastating video, which shows them like literally hard proof that it took 45 minutes for the helicopters to arrive and just start to dump some water on the Pacific Palisades fire, which is one of the worst fires, the most deadly and destructive fires. That's insane. I mean, you know, I've had two whistleblowers, firefighters come forward. The response time is supposed to be 3 to 5 minutes. I mean, that's how quickly firefighters are supposed to be on site. 45 minutes. They could have had that fire contained. You can't stop fires, but they could have had it contained. Instead, 45 minutes, it was just too late and it was everywhere.
You're right. I do look at your report, and I'm looking at it right now, Public, which is available on Substack, and you're talking about LA Mayor Karen Bass claiming that the fire cuts the $17.5 million cuts did not impact the LA Fire Department's ability to contain, control, or ameliorate, I suppose, these fires. Michael, I suppose that the general shape of debate is this. Is California's unique status as the ultra-liberal, inverted commas, woke state impacting serious municipal matters and emergency matters? Crime has long been discussed. Now there's a crisis in California. That much of the commentary surrounds the connection between, for example, DEI hires and the manner in which this is being handled. Do you think it's possible to be objective when a state and therefore issues within that state become so hotly and heavily politicized so urgently, and the discourse becomes so dominated by tribalism? Do you think it's possible to discern it? Is that why your investigation looks at budgetary cuts and the amount of time it takes?
Right. I mean, look, it's a reasonable question. I mean, obviously, there's super political atmosphere. People are prejudiced against California in general because it's the most, radical left state in the United States. But in this case, I mean, here you had the fire chief herself, who's a, famously lesbian fire chief who didn't want to kind of acknowledge the role of budget cuts, but there was a very feisty local Fox News reporter who just kept pressing her on the issue. And she finally said, yes, of course it had an impact. Specifically, it was a little confusing at first because she kept talking about they couldn't afford to pay the mechanics. And you were like, well, what do you mean? What do you need mechanics to fight these fires with? They had 100 fire engines that were in the shop that needed to be repaired. They could have also had another 100 fire engines, you can buy used fire engines for $500,000. And the idea is you should station them around Los Angeles. I mean, Russell, you lived there. This is California. It's the most beautiful state, and it's also the most dangerous state. And we deal with that. We're willing to pay for that. It's a premium state. We retrofit our homes. We have all sorts of precautions. We create little earthquake kits. We're very diligent about it. We know that there's a price to be paid for living in California. But that means that everybody down the line, from the governor to the mayor to the fire department, the chiefs, they need to be focused like a laser on this issue of public safety. And when they are just, first of all, half of all fires are set by homeless people who should not be on the street creating fires. When you're focused on anything other than merit in hiring for firefighting, whether it's, DEI or anything else, your eye is not on the ball. I mean, this is a hard job. Firefighting involves both brawn and brains. It actually, you have to look at a structure and decide, can we get in there and out safely? There's a lot of experience that's required. So it's a really tough job, and they've been starving them for funding. I just found out that they owe the firefighters a huge amount of back pay, tens of millions of dollars of back pay. They won't pay them. They could have easily doubled the firefighter budget in Los Angeles we estimate something like 2% of what the state spends annually on climate change, homelessness, and migration.
Well, we haven't fixed the fire engines and we haven't paid the firefighters. But other than that, it's a pretty tight ship. Typically, budget cuts would be the purview of a leftist and therefore pro-big government argument. Isn't it rather odd that that is a component?
Totally. Totally. I mean, you would think the Democrats are supposed to be in the pocket of the labor unions. Here's the case where I really wish they had been in the pockets of the firefighters. Another thing I learned is that the firefighters are prohibited by their contract from striking. And I can appreciate that. You don't want the firefighters to strike. But I mean, look, they told me stories, Russell, that are just heartbreaking. I mean, you're supposed to, if firefighters are just everything that we imagine from television and movies, like in 30 seconds, you got to be out the door. You're supposed to have responded to a call in 3 to 5 minutes. They're showing up 30 minutes after they get called. People are having heart attacks and dying in those 30 minutes. This whistleblower, this firefighter, told me a terrible story of a child where they were 30 minutes late getting there. We still don't know if that child survived. But the family, of course, you get there and the family's outraged at the firefighters, and the firefighters, who are like parents themselves, are just wrecked. They're heartbroken. I've covered stories in the past where like EMTs show up late, try to save somebody, they lose somebody, and they burst out crying because they're just really actually invested in saving lives. And when they can save a life, it's just this incredible natural high, the greatest experience that they have. And when they can't save a life that they know they could have saved, it drives them absolutely crazy. It leads them to quit their jobs. And so now we have this shortage of firefighters who are, they are genuinely American heroes. I mean, they're just out there constantly. They're not taking the breaks they need. So, hopefully this crisis, this disaster, helps to shine a light on the need to take care of our first responders. These are the people who maintain our civilization. And I think that tells you everything, that the city of angels has got its head so far up in the clouds that it's failing to deal with the civilization on the ground.
That's pretty good. Nice work there. Well done. I'm not going to let that pass without compliment. The religious subtext of the...
Over egging the pudding? it's so awful. It's so dramatic.
No, it doesn't. It's dramatic enough. We don't need the angels analogies. But all right. But I'll take your analogy and I'll raise you like that. In this, like the fallen angel, the Luciferian false light is what's primarily being emitted from that place. There's a deep tragedy, I suppose, in the waste and lack of the human resource, because as you say, firefighters and first responders are people that have been drawn to these frontline places of crisis by a deep desire to serve and be of help. And what I suppose the California fire example appears to illustrate is a level of ineptitude that means that resource, the resource of people's goodwill, bravery and courage, isn't being correctly served and directed. Perhaps any governor or high-profile political figure that has access to media and something of a profile or kind of legend is auditioning for further future office. And it seemed for a minute in the early spasms of Democratic decline that Gavin Newsom was being groomed for greater things. So I suppose this will likely for some time be seen as the incineration of his dreams to be anything other than governor of California.
I mean, it's hard to believe he's got a political career after this. I mean, there's now a new recall is already underway, a new recall effort. There's an effort to force the mayor to resign. I mean, for all these catastrophes, there's always a series of failures on the way to them. It's never one thing. I mean, there's also this incredible, the second largest water reservoir that feeds Los Angeles and is part of both the drinking water and the fire system are the same. In most cities, they're the same. And in Los Angeles, they're the same. This reservoir was empty. I mean, it's just complete madness. It was empty it looks like it was empty for years, at least for 1 year. That is the responsibility of the Department of Water and Power, the city utility. That person works for the mayor. If the mayor can't do her job, then the governor has to step in. So basically at every level where all these failures are occurring, you can trace it right back to the governor and the mayor. I mean, the buck stops with the governor. I mean, he's an incredibly powerful position in the state, and he's just incapable of acting decisively. He's somebody kind of at a character level that he acts as though he's a leader and as though he's in charge, but he's always looking to other people to figure out what to do. He's always looking for permission to act. That's not what you need in situations of danger. You need decisiveness. You need authority. He's obviously not able to provide that. I mean, he is the quintessential, weak leader created by good times. I mean, he was someone, really born into and sort of adopted by the Getty family. Was kind of handed everything in his career, handed his wealth. So he's just not somebody that's a take charge person. And he's just like a lot of the people in Hollywood and a lot of people in Los Angeles, just really caught up in ideology, in this identity politics, in this climate apocalypse, and just not really grounded in reality, not really connected to the function of civilization.
The rest of this conversation will be exclusively available on Rumble. Join us over there. And if you don't have Rumble Premium yet, consider getting Rumble Premium. Why don't you? You get access to all of my content, including some really interesting and fascinating stuff I've been doing, like preaching in churches, going to Mar-a-Lago, hanging out with Mel Gibson there, extraordinary, shooting on firing ranges, and so much more. Have a look at this trailer.
Mar-a-Lago.
Been here before then? It's nice here, isn't it?
Russell Brand is here.
But I knew because there was Secret Service here.
I'm very grateful to be in a double act with Mel Gibson all of a sudden.
My life's changed quite a lot. A little while ago I was a vegan, living a simple life in Grays, Essex. Now I'm eating steak at Mar-a-Lago. Funny how the world changes.
When we awaken to the continual and perpetual interconnectivity and flow that he grants us, then we are powerful and real change becomes a possibility.
Amazing.
I gotta follow that.
Oh my God.
Would you like a burger?
Yeah.
Come here, you soppy sausage. Stick to delivering the presents and choosing who's naughty and nice.
Mel, you hit me one time when I heard you
Finish that sentence.
It's like rain, it does not give a fuck who it falls on. And there's no umbrella for the truth.
Certainly fearing the consequences of stupid actions. I barely had any power over, now it's over.
Pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Is this real life or are we in a dream? This is what happens every day at Mar-a-Lago. Just at Mar-a-Lago, and of course I'm with a troupe of pipers and drummers.
Fearing that the mud up to my knees is pulling me under. I'll be suffocating soon and there is no other. But for me to be fighting through the bitter tundra. I run but my legs will fail me if I don't get to this finish line in a hurry.
Independence is not easy when you've got this accent.
But you are cut of the same cloth, Sarah.
Thank you.
You are cut from the same cloth, and I see what you are wearing on your chest.
Our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Dear Lord, bring your saving graces upon Russell and the super work that he is continuing to do.
Do you have a cup? You can take my pee. My pee is good.
It's clean?
You wait till you see it. I think you could probably drink it.
Sober Journey's inspired me a lot.
How are you getting on?
Doing all right. 2 years, just the other day.
One day at a time, we don't drink, we don't take drugs.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
Okay, let's get on with the rest of our conversation with Michael Shellenberger. Sorry to interrupt you, Michael.